Hello, everyone. Happy Monday, and welcome to the Stream of Consciousness. I am Dichotomous Prime, aka Vince. I am a West Indian bi Canadian tabletop game creator. I do cultural consultation, sensitivity reading, as well as narrative and mechanics design in the tabletop space. For those of you who have been keeping up with my desperate attempts to do promotion for a change, tonight is a little bit of a change of pace, a little bit of something old, something new. We are going to be getting into another one of our deep dive discussions. For those of you who may remember, when I played through Control, we had a day where we decided to get real about some of the handling of ableism and saneism in that particular game. And the good, the bad, the ugly, and how things can be handled. We are going to be doing another one of those today, but specifically for Arkane Studios' Dishonored 2. And we are going to be talking about imperialism, systemic oppression, and all of the things having to do with that, as those are very prevalent themes in that game. I hope that you are all having a lovely time, that you are getting off to a good start in your week. If not, then hopefully we can maybe give you a little bit of a pick-me-up at the end of the day and get you set off right. For those of you doing the gig economy thing, I know how that feels. I hope that we give you a little bit of a respite before you get back into that. And also, hello everyone who decided to come by so far. Kay Reed, Sophia, Phoenix Femme. Thank you everybody for coming by, and I hope that y'all are having a lovely, lovely Monday. How's everybody doing today? Oh, it is real interesting, because I have so many things buzzing about my mind. I don't even want to call it discourse, but I'm gonna be real with everybody. A lot of heavy topics going on recently. But basically, because I know that we're talking about something pretty intense today, and it will be getting pretty intense, I'll give the CWs coming up pretty soon, that I'm probably gonna set aside a lot of those other different things for today. Normally I do the little bit of I hope not a diatribe, good lord, but I usually do a little bit of a screed at the beginning of the stream in terms of what's going on recently, but it's pretty intense. It's pretty intense, and I hope that if there are individuals for whom the stuff that's going on, whether on Twitter or elsewhere on YouTube, are especially difficult, potentially even triggering, that y'all are taking good care of yourselves. Taking good care of yourselves. There we go. We got there. Because you deserve it, and you deserve to feel safe. Hope that everybody out there is hydrating, getting something good to eat, taking your meds, doing all that kind of good stuff. Again, because you deserve it. And I hope that while you're watching the stream, you have an appropriately hydrated body and a nice full belly, and none of those aches and pains that you have to worry about. So there's my Nightbot. I've spent so much time trying to master Nightbot that now it's like, oh god, where did the notifications come from? And it's like, I set that. Past Vince set that. That's a thing that I did. Yeah, that's the skills are getting there, but the ADHD lack of memory still remains. So but that is an excellent reminder that for those of you who are looking for an excellent place to get more of that great BIMPOC content by BIMPOC for BIMPOC, you should absolutely go check out Utopia. They are an awesome channel of non-white creators, particularly platforming individuals of marginalized genders, queer individuals, and lots of other indie tabletop stories, interview shows, and all of that sort of stuff. If you enjoy what I do here, you will even more so enjoy what they do over there. Jess, aka Burst of Hope, is doing all the kinds of revolutionary related things with the actual play medium. You are going to want to be on the ground floor of what they're putting together. So they just premiered their Kids on Brooms campaign, Donuts and Duels, this past weekend, and that already looks to be an absolutely all-star cast, and it looks to be like they're gonna have lots of kind of fun adventures in store, so you should definitely check those out. Let's see. So, brass tacks about content warnings and stuff for what we're going to talk about today, and general sorts of formatting things. So, the plan right now was initially to spend the first 30 minutes of stream talking about it, but that's gonna be a little bit weird because we're already like 5:45 right now, but I'm not gonna worry too much about it. Quality content is what we're doing here. So I may end up going a little bit late today, but the idea is hopefully that I will spend around a little bit over a half hour talking about what we're going to talk about. We're going to take a 15-minute break because, as I mentioned, it might get pretty heavy. And then we're going to have a little bit of a lighthearted palate cleanser for the latter part of the stream, which is I'm going to show y'all how to do a Ghost in the Wall run of Clockwork Mansion. Now, what is a Ghost in the Wall run? Well, if you were here last week, you may recall that Kieran Jindosh and his nasally, annoying-ass voice is following us all through his mansion, being like, you are destroying my clockworks, and dude, you're stepping on the panel. I know where you are. Isn't that interesting? Blah, 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 wonk, wonk, wonk. There's a way to do that level so that he never knows that you're there, and neither does anyone else, and you can just assassinate his ass without him even knowing that there's someone in the house. Just the knife is coming from inside the house, and it will be delivered by us. So, that is what we will be doing, and it will be a nice kind of way to clear the air from what we're going to talk about. Let's see. Is my music still going? Did it stop? Did it reach the end of the thing? It's just really quiet. Okay. There we are. Okay, cool. Wanted a little bit of ambiance still, even if we're not on the starting soon screen anymore. So that's kind of the structure that we're looking at today. The other thing is the content warnings. So let me just throw that up real quick. So we have the usual ones for Dishonored, which are the associated violence-related things, specifically having to do with our discussion of power, because we will be getting into the backstory of Delilah Copperspoon, aka Delilah Caldwin. There will be instances of discussing power and coerced consent. There will be instances of, at least one instance of, a childhood death of a parent, the experiencing of homelessness, the experiencing of police violence, and just general kind of abuses of power and experiencing of extreme poverty. If those are things that are especially triggering to you, I fully advise you, of course, please take care of yourself, prioritize your own health first. If you need to be in a better place before you're ready to experience discussions of that, or if you are just kind of just a big, just red card that and want to get out of here, totally understandable. That I will be putting up an extra post when we conclude that conversation on Twitter and on social media so that you will know when to come back and that we will all be able to have a good time. And we'll be able to go shooty stabby on rich people like we always do, and like the good Lord intended. At least before we attack and dethrone him or her, they. I suppose, is God gender fluid? I suppose if you're all genders, you would yeah, anyways. Yeah, so that's a thing. But yeah, though I strive to not bulk away from talking about heavy issues and things that I find important, safety is still paramount on this stream, and it is something that I care significantly about. It is top priority. So if for your safety, for your health and well-being, you want to step away from the stream for the first little bit this week, completely understandable. No harm, no foul. Ultimately, I'm an asshole streaming on Twitch, along with millions of other assholes streaming on Twitch. This is not worth your, mental health related things. Your health is more important than what I have to say. Full stop. So omnigender, yeah, that's a new one on me. I suppose that's not surprised. Anyways, yes, sorry, ADHD brain all over the place trying to cover the bases. But yes, so I actually have some notes prepared for today. I know, I was surprised too. But I have some notes on some related bullet points and topics, because if my rambling is any indication, it is really easy for me to get off topic and lose my points. So, let's see. Not an asshole. I moonlight as an asshole. It's more of a part-time thing, you know. Like I say, the gig economy, it hits us all. All right, so let us transition over to boom. Look at that. I got bullet points and everything. We're legit in this shit. So Dishonored. Now I'm going to presume that the folks who are coming in today have at least a passing familiarity with the game or have been here for any of the other streams. So that's just kind of a basic sort of summary. You can also hit ! Game. What am I even talking about? There's a whole sort of thing that I have loaded in there to where if you don't know anything about Dishonored 2, if you hit ! Game, you can get some information about that right in there. As it's kind of mentioned, as Phoenix Femme has been so kind as to bring up on the screen, you play as, or at least I play as Emily Caldwin, who, if we're 100% honest, is the protagonist of this game. You can play as Corvo Atano, the protagonist from the first game, but it's just, other than different powers, it's Emily's story. Let's just leave it assuming it's Emily's story. Who has been deposed from her throne by Delilah Caldwin and a coterie of baddies from Serkonos, which is a nation to the south, who have, in a coup, have deposed her, taken her throne, and now you have to flee to the south to get your revenge, basically, and build yourself back up. One of the themes that we are introduced to right off the bat is the idea of responsibility as a ruler, which in the initial room that you wake up in, didn't mean to open up that one. Yeah, that's fine. In the initial room that you open up in or wake up in the game, there are a number of different documents that you see with a number of dignitaries talking about how Emily, you can play this other dude legally. You are technically allowed. You won't, and I have New Game Plus, so I have all his powers, so why would I play as him? Gruff, like, 90s Wolverine protagonist number 293. But yeah, the initial documents that we see in the game as part of the narrative design depict Emily as someone who is running away from her responsibilities. She doesn't want to meet with dignitaries. She's been avoiding them. She finds it boring. She does the, like, Jasmine from Aladdin thing of, like, fleeing during the night, mostly because her dad is basically Stabby Batman and taught her how to do the whole rooftop running thing already. Hello there, Nine. Welcome on in. We're just getting started in the whole discussion, just kind of framing it. I hope that you are having a lovely evening and are as healthy as your screen name implies. She's avoiding all of those responsibilities, and that particular arc of power and responsibility is kind of on a through line throughout the game, because we see how, and this is kind of the second bullet point that I'm getting into here, is that we see how all of Delilah's various lieutenants are misusing wealth and power to help themselves. Duke Abel apparently has, like, basically taxpayer-funded orgies all the time and banquets and all of this sort of stuff, to where all of the infrastructure is gone. We just recently finished the Addermeyer Institute levels, where Dr. Hypatia, who was working on cures for various diseases and helping the miners who mine the silver in Serkonos to deal with a number of the sicknesses that come with the backbreaking labor that they are subjected to while in those places. But Dr. Hypatia is basically being held prisoner because something pseudoscience, someone basically gave her Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde solution, and Duke Bell is using this alter ego that it turns her into to perform assassinations of his enemies and frame Emily and Corvo as being murderers. Those are things that we kind of see the misuse of wealth and power in Duke Bell and Kirin Jindosh, who is kind of supposed to be the dark reflection of Anton Sokolov, who is your inventor and childhood tutor character. Painter, very much kind of a Galileo type character. He's hailed as kind of the bringer of the modern age. But of course we're going to deconstruct that as we go down my notes and whatnot here. But essentially we have these dark reflections of the misuse of power and wealth. And the idea is kind of that Emily is kind of learning her lesson through seeing this dark reflection of just like very Ghost of Christmas Future sort of deal. And the player is supposed to kind of go through this. And depending on how you play, low chaos or high chaos, the lesson that she learns is different. If you play low chaos, non-lethal, she learns that she doesn't want to become like this, and she supposedly learns to be a just and good leader. If you play high chaos and stab the crap out of people, then she learns that, like, she just starts getting really sadistic and is just like, this is a good template for how to oppress people, and I should do this so that I don't have my throne taken from me again. Bringer of the sounds musky, and we'll get into that, because that's Kirin Jindosh is kind of closer to Elon Musk than Anton Sokolov is. Anton Sokolov is closer to, I'd probably say, Oppenheimer, and we'll get into why in just a moment. But there are parallels there, because Kirin Jindosh is super self-indulgent, super people must appreciate my genius, and I am unappreciated in my time. Blah blah blah. Wonk wonk wonk. Rich guy has robots. Cool. But yeah, so these are the things that you are supposed to kind of go through. Actually here, so I can see my notes in Streamlabs, I'm just going to go out of studio mode here. There we go. Okay, perfect. So, the problem being with this approach is, and we can talk about the source of that problem, which, by the way, if anyone ever has any questions as we talk about this in chat, please feel free to ask them, because I definitely want to branch out. There may be some things that I even miss, because I am not a professional scholar of these things, but I just think about it a lot, basically. The problem being that this journey of use of power and responsibility and wealth and privilege is only ever framed in a discussion on an individual level. There really isn't a sufficient reckoning with the idea of institutional or systemic power or oppression. Now, we can talk about, in kind of this initial bullet point that I have here, how part of this can be attributed to the video game medium, and specifically the medium of a first-person action game. Namely, let's see, have you based this analysis on any specific event that was the catalyst for this convo, or is there something that creeped you at the end of the game? The thing, I've been thinking about it for a little bit. You can kind of hear me talking about it through the different episodes of my playthrough, but I was playing forward, because what I do usually is I play forward a couple of levels just to check for content that requires a CW and things like that. So I was playing a couple of missions ahead, and I came across Delilah's backstory. And what I'm gonna do actually is once we get to the point that it is relevant in the discussion, I'm just gonna flip over to the game for a moment and have y'all kind of go through watching it with me, because essentially she is a very sympathetic villain, and you will find out why. But the game kind of does this thing where even at its most sympathetic, it goes, Delilah had bad stuff happen to her, therefore I shouldn't kill her, but she needs to be taken out of play. As opposed to the High Chaos playthrough, which we're playing right now, in which Emily essentially believes that that Delilah is a liar about the stuff that she experienced, the poverty, the abuse, and things like that she experienced in her childhood. Thinks she's just straight up lying about it, and that she's just gonna stab the crap out of her when she finds her, and possibly like many times, because at this point Emily is like weirdly descriptive about the way that she wants to kill people. But essentially that was kind of the tipping point where I went, I think I want to have a dedicated discussion about this, because it will be continually, it'll continue to come up through the game, but I think that roughly 3 or 4 missions in, as we are right now, there's enough there are enough things to discuss that come up that funnel into a worthwhile discussion. So that is why, and thank you very much for the question. The role of the video game medium on this problem. In a video game, you spend the majority of the time, at least in a first-person action game, you spend the majority of the time with one person. You experience the game from their perspective, whether it's just the gameplay itself, the finding of various different lore and documents, or any kind of everything, including cutscenes, the individual characters' barks, the powers and techniques that they use, and the style with which they navigate the world and its obstacles are all characterization. They can all be thought of as characterization. Which is why a lot of the time when people are like, oh, I wish they would turn this video game into a movie, and then the movie turns out to suck, as most video game movies do, and they go, well, why did it suck? I had this really sympathetic character. And it's like, you did, but they were characterized through play. They were characterized through your experience of empathetic kind of mirroring, because you spent 11, 12, 20, 50 hours with this character. And all of those things are things that maybe don't necessarily translate as well to a movie where you are a passive audience member. But the translation of that language kind of gets muddled a little bit. So that being said, so that can definitely be said to be a factor. However, this is something I wouldn't necessarily say as an excuse or a justification, because I like to assume, as generously as I can, the competence of people who are making video games. A lot of work and skill goes into even a shitty video game. So I like to assume there is some level of thought being put into how to address these things. And so we see a game where there are lots of lore pieces from other people's perspectives to maybe try and take you out of the particular perspective of Emily Caldwin or Corvo Attano specifically. We see books by different people, lore pieces. We see all of these different things. We see little notes left by other people. The experiences of poor people, richer people, and how they view the world and that sort of thing. And so when we are looking to apply authorial intent or ascribe authorial intent, we can also use the filter of we can also use the filter of, okay, so given that we have these different perspectives, one, Emily Caldwin, or let's see, so I would say 4. So we have Emily Caldwin, we have the NPCs that she interacts with, and then we have the lore pieces that we find of varying different backgrounds and things like that. When we take these things summatively, we can basically do like a reduction where we take out all of the things that differ within those pieces of information. And what remains, we can presume, is something that we can ascribe to the narrative designer. This is also very tricky because with well-written things, which Dishonored 2, for all I'm criticizing it, is a very well-written game. For very well-written things, you have to look at omission. And by that I mean what doesn't get talked about. Because much like visual art, narrative design is also a thing where negative space matters. In order to craft a certain narrative, you can't have all of the pieces of information. There will be some things, it is given shape by partially what you leave out. And so when we discuss the shape of narrative design, you also have to look at that omission. And using that is a certain specific way. There's a very specific way that like things are omitted or shaped in a certain way to give a certain perspective. What isn't there speaks as much as what is there. Exactly. There's so far you can go with this. It's a whole thing. It is a whole thing there, Nine. So this is the sort of thing that we are trying to address this problem with, and this is kind of how I'm addressing the situation with. So, on an individual level, not systemic, despite the okay. So all these things will be these individual stories, but there is not a whole lot of discussion of systems, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Again, another thing on the individual perspective that maybe harpens it. Half the story in Dishonored 1 is barely shown, so you have to fill it up. Too much is like this day-to-day thing, no explanation is needed. Well, I mean, it depends on what you define as story, because you can absolutely have the day-to-day, like, you know, I went to the grocery store sort of thing. But when you are defining patterns and trends within things that characterize the world as, this is the kind of world where X takes place, ergo the type of government, the type of economy, the values and assumptions of the people that are in it, and things like that. Those are things that you can kind of start to pick up on, even if they're not explicitly said, which is kind of what I'm getting into. Yeah, world building, precisely. So another thing on the individual scale, going back to our original point, is that the game attempts to summarize a bunch of these different factors of helpful and harmful, or reckless versus responsible, versus the just use of wealth and power versus the unjust use, as chaos. And again, this is a very difficult thing to do, because we're talking about a game where you spend all of it with one person from one sort of perspective and one set of gameplay implements, your powers and your abilities, and you still have to make an engaging experience for a player in a first-person action game. So I very much understand the difficulty that comes with trying to bring all of this under a single umbrella, and I very much respect the difficulty that comes with that. That being said, chaos in itself is an incomplete and not especially informative way of addressing moral issues in the game because it wants to. The game very much wants to have a statement about this is good, this is bad, like treating the poor and abusing them with your wealth and causing them to work themselves to death in your mines, and like the misuse of police power and things like that are all things that Dishonored 2 likes to say, like, they are bad. They are all things that are bad. However, you also have kind of these different things where in Dishonored 1, the amount of chaos that you created was very tied to the setting specifically. For instance, if you killed a bunch of people and left a bunch of corpses around, there was a lot of corpses for rats to eat. And in a very bubonic plague type way, the rats would eat it, grow more plentiful, spread the disease, you get more rats, you get more chaos, you get bad stuff happening. In Dishonored 2, they kind of attempted to do that, but there's a bit of a disconnect between chaos and there isn't like a direct kind of disease related thing, because for instance, like if you leave more bodies and create more chaos, there are more blood flies. However, there's a power that you can get early on that turns the bodies of people who you kill to ash, and you still get higher chaos if that happens. And the effects of chaos are the same. You get more blood flies, you get more blood fly nests and everything. Given that the presumption of a high chaos playthrough with lots of bloodfly nests is that there are bodies around for them to nest in, which also, hey, body horror CW, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that this really early on power that you get that eliminates bodies results in very little, if no, effect on the idea of chaos. Furthermore, there is this idea of the more people who you decide to kill instead of use non-lethal effects with, the more kind of like bloodthirsty that Emily gets. Like, there are a number of these character barks that she has where do you think... Oh, here, let me finish my thought before I answer the question. There are a number of these barks that she has when you interact with these things, where she will say stuff like, when you're in Dr. Hypatia's apartment, she looks at her thing on blood flies, and if you hit it, Emily says, I would like to plant blood flies into the chests of all of those who oppose me. And I was like, that's real descriptive. And then she's looking at some of the like sorts of posters about policies around the city, and if you click on it, she'll say something like, I have a few laws in mind when I get my crown back, like no rabble rousing, like no protesters or anything like that. And the through line of how the lethality of your playthrough translates to that doesn't super track, because it's like, out of character. Yes, I am a stabby chaos goblin who is looking for trick kills in this video game. 100% out of character, that's me. However, there is this kind of idea of like, we are talking about cops who enforce a fascistic state and frequently kill and abuse the poor and oppressed. And the fact that the game kind of treats like countering violence from these people with lethality as the same thing as like, oh, there was a butler here in this room and he noticed you and he ran for help, doesn't take into account this construct of systemic power that got brought to the fore, say, in the Black Lives Matter protests last year, where we started talking about, like, you know, white supremacy and white nationalism and the intrinsic relation that it has to policing in the United States, as not just the United States, but that's where it was primarily talked about. relating to like police originally being slave patrols and that through line of white supremacy continuing here, and the idea of police as something that the rich and powerful and white used to oppress those who were not those things. And so basically we have this model because like games are influenced by the societies that they are made within. Art doesn't exist in a vacuum. That you have these cops who at numerous points in the game, for instance, if I get to the level, the Royal Conservatory, we will see explicit examples of, say, for instance, in that level, you can sneak up on a rooftop and you will see a Grand Guard elite basically say to a scullery maid that like, oh, did you bring it? No, I'm not stealing anything for you anymore. I can't lose this job or else I won't be able to pay my rent. And that Grand Guard takes that woman and pushes her off of a rooftop and kills her. There are accounts which we will see in Delilah's backstory of how like violence against her mother by Grand Guard people or by Royal Guard or the Watch, I think they're called the Watch in Dunwall, contributed significantly to her illness and death. And we are routinely treated to these stories of the Grand Guard and the Watch and police officers and like all of these people being sources of oppression. And yet the way that the game wants us to moralize this is to go, well, if you stab those people rather than knocking them out, then you're a bad person. And the grappling with that, especially when we consider the point that I brought up earlier of chaos not really tracking in the same way that it does in the first game because of a different setting and because of a different power set that you have, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And that particular moral rubric doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Or at the very least, on that individual level, it might make sense, but we're talking about a game in which imperialism, wealth, privilege, power are not only present, but central fixtures in the game. The heart routinely contradicts your actions when you ask her, and kind of whatever you do, you are wrong. Why'd you do? Yeah, that's actually another thing. Is just like, I see your hands bathed in blood. Is just like, what is this angsty magic 8-ball that I have in my hand? And if there was some kind of like consistency with it, it would maybe make sense. Which, as my most generous interpretation of that abstract observer, is that Jessamine Caldwin herself is contradictory and flawed as an individual, as we are learning once we get into Delilah's backstory. It's actually your mother, but that's fine. Yeah, I know. I've played through the game a number of times. It's just like this. It really feels like the magic conch, like the, from SpongeBob where they like pull the ripcord and it just like, what should we do, magic conch? Oh, should we look for food? No, like that sort of thing. And the way that it like continually contradicts itself is just very, it feels more a function of, it's supposed to make you feel this way, but there isn't a whole lot of substance behind it. But yeah, so let's see, what have we gone through? We've gone through the effect of the medium on it being very individualistic, the flaws in the idea of chaos as a moral rubric for the game, and the failure to reckon with these kind of connect the dots impressions of police and guards as oppressors and as people who will abuse the poor and everything. And the idea that, the game will if you happen to kill people who are actively making the world worse, then what your character's reaction is ultimately like they become a sadistic person who wants to nest blood flies in people's hearts. And I think that that's a very, like, you know, you can't punch Nazis or else you'll be just like them. And it's like, are you sure? Are you exactly sure that those two things are equivalent? Like, and that sort of thing. It feels like a very neoliberal, like, both sidesism type rubric to how to approach power and ethics and the use of violence. Whereas, like, you know, violence is contextual, is all I will say on that. And the idea of just kind of, like, removing a despot from power in a lethal way, and, like, you know, just killing a butler NPC that saw you in a level for no reason other than it's easier that way, are not the same thing. But the game treats them as though they are. And that could be partially a programming limitation, but that is also something that if you want to have a moral meter or a moral judgment in your game, in particular, a moral judgment in your game in which wealth and privilege are a central fixture, then you need to account for that. But, and this is kind of where the difficulty with the lack of diversity in the games industry is that if you have a large number of people writing police officers who have not been the victims of police violence and oppression their whole lives, or been denied wealth and generally stability and safety their whole lives, you get a lot of these moral decisions in design that are hypothetical, because oppression is a hypothetical for the people writing it. You get a much different impression if you have someone write that who has experienced it. I will guarantee you. Let's catch up on chat a little bit. Neoliberal approach does accept violence if your enemy can be framed as a terrorist. Let's see. Sets an intersection of programming and narrative framing. Also, hello, Eldritch Crow. Like, how much of that possibility got sacrificed by leadership just wanting to focus on tighter mechanics and level design? This is kind of a tricky spot, Crow, is that it's hard to prove a negative, because if I theorize that something was in the game and then was removed from the game, then basically I could work conjecture through it the whole time. And so basically I can only judge what's in front of me. You're absolutely right. Those things and the industry and restrictions of project management are most likely all factors. But it's one of those things where when you do a lit review of a book, for instance, you don't do a lit review of the manuscript that was submitted before an editor got to it. You do a lit review of the completed version with all of the parts that were removed. So essentially, that's kind of what I'm essentially trying to work with. Let's see. Abstract Observer, this is actually something that I kind of want to get to as well, because we're going to get into Imperialism next, but I'll make this kind of my last point on this, is that I personally don't like I don't think that it's a good idea for games to put a quantitative measurement on morality. I don't think that it works. I think what it ends up doing is it attempts to put objectivity into a subjective sort of scenario. Now, you say, okay, so what's your example of a good way that you could do that? My example of that is Witcher 3. And we can absolutely have a discussion of some of the problematic aspects of Witcher 3 another time. That's entirely valid, and those things are absolutely there and should be discussed. But the point that I want to emphasize about Witcher 3 is the fact that no matter what you do, like, there are consequences, and sometimes doing the on the surface good thing has a negative consequence, and sometimes doing the on the surface being an asshole thing has a good consequence. And they will be way down the road, and a lot of the times you won't see the causal parts of it that were unavailable to you when you made that decision. Now, it will sometimes give you a negative kind of like thing of like, you done fucked up, you shouldn't have given that 5 gold because that guy took the gold in the bag and he bludgeoned my husband to death with it. And it was like, all right, that's real complicated, he couldn't have just gotten a hammer. Like, but, and it'll have you want to feel a certain way, but I think that the moment that you apply a mechanical sort of numeric measure to moral decisions in video games, they cease to be moral decisions, and rather they turn into risk assessment. They turn into, okay, well, if I'm doing a high chaos playthrough, I'm not going to be able to get through that door because it'll be blocked by a bloodfly nest, or I can do a higher chaos playthrough because that means that the NPCs that would normally be here are dead, so I don't have to sneak around as much, and it's easier to do my no detection playthrough. You see what I mean? It turns into a question of resources. Your morality and your karma becomes a measurable, bankable resource. So if you want to confront that as like at least Fable on the surface is just like, eventually you're Satan, like it's just kind of right on the surface, but you need to go into it with intent. If you go into it from the outset with the intent of, this is going to be a story about making moral decisions and the impact of your moral decisions on people, and you're not going to know what they are because you're a person, you're not omniscient, and you're just going to have to do your best, because that's kind of how real life works as well, then you can do that. But then when you make design decisions, in my humble opinion, those design decisions should be in line with that. Whereas if you have a game where you're talking about like, you're gonna make moral decisions and you can be good or evil, it's like, it often boils down to what I've said before, which is you can save all the babies or eat all the babies. And a lot of the time, that's what happens. In Infamous, if you straddle the line, you get no powers, because you need to either be super evil or super good to get to the either end of those particular skill trees, for instance. So it ceases to be a moral question. It starts to be the question of, do I want the sniper lightning bolt or do I want cluster grenade energy things, is what the question turns into. So yeah, mechanizing morality is not really a thing that I'm a huge fan of in games, whether they be in video games or tabletop. So annoyed about that in Infamous. A lot of people were, Sophia, not gonna lie. So, moving on from that particular topic, on to Imperialism. Dishonored takes place in an empire. It just is. It's monarchies that are lineages based off of marriage, sometimes marriages of alliance and things like that, which it's not alone in that. There are plenty of games in which that happens. There's plenty of other things in fantasy in which that happens. However, it straddles a weird line where there are onto Imperialism. Yeah, exactly. So anyways, let's move on to our next thing. It straddles a weird line where there are parts of the game where it would like you to talk about restructuring society, policy making, and the shifting of power, and the use of better wages and better living conditions for people. We haven't gotten to the Dust District level yet, but there's an entire level about unionization and workers' rights and protesting and all of those sorts of things. So Dishonored wants to, and generally it's considered a good thing that you want to support these people. Like, the high chaos thing is just like, whatever, let the Union campaigner die, who cares? That's the high chaos bad thing. So you're encouraged to help him. So on one hand, Dishonored 2 has this thing of social mobility and this idea that you can change things and you can make something better, and that change is systemic. The idea that workers have greater protections, have greater wages, etc., etc. However, on the other hand, anytime that it talks about empire and imperialism, the discussion is that if a wealthy, powerful person does something wrong, then they themselves individually are bad, and we should have a better, wealthy, incredibly powerful person instead. It does not, however, question the idea that empire is a good thing. We just need to have the right emperor, is essentially the question here. And that is despite the fact that, as we will see in Delilah's backstory in a moment, the ones who have existed are far from perfect. And there's a lot of deconstruction of the public image of a publicly visible figure, governmental figure, leader, public image, that sort of thing, versus what they're actually like. And this idea that these people have actually caused a lot of harm. But again, going back to our original point on individualism, it is evaluated on the individual level. No one in this game really goes, let's stop having an empire. Let's have elected leaders instead. Let's just not do this. We have the wrong emperor. This person was a just ruler versus their son, who is a brat and, like, useless, essentially. There's also Corvo's entire backstory of being a poor duelist who rose to power only to perpetuate the system. He required to live a life of sanctioned and unsanctioned violence to have violence to the system. Yep. And in fact, even in the first episode, we saw that little bit of just like, well, he overcame his foreignness when he came to Dunwall, and through that he was able to, like, rise above his station and that sort of thing. And it's like, you're kind of expected to cringe at that, but then it also just kind of sets it aside and not worry about it. And this whole kind of idea of national identity is kind of gets introduced, but then it gets put by the wayside, which is very interesting. So yeah, we have this whole thing of evaluating these public-facing individuals for good things and bad things that they did, but it's always on an individual level, but there's never a questioning of the presence of empire. There's a lot of bullshit rhetoric. Well, that's the interesting thing, Nine, is that it never says empire is a good thing in bold. This is one of those things that I'm that I'm gleaning from its absence, because we see a lot of criticism of Duke Abel is terrible. Emperor Caldwin or Duke Caldwin, whatever the hell his name was, Jessamine's father, what looked good, but he actually did this, that, and the other thing. But what's never questioned is, well, no one raises their hand and goes, well, should we have elected leaders instead? Like, there's not really anything that does that. So it's a tale of these two different dynamics. And Dishonored 2 kind of wants to have them both, but they clash with one another. And they clash with one another in a way that it never really works with, because it's very invested in this individualistic narrative, despite, again, the fact that systemic power, imperialism, colonialism, and its influences are a central fixture in the game. So it creates this dissonance that is noticeable, and that I think is worthy of noting when we're talking about doing narrative design and the biases that involve it. So yeah. Let's see. Okay, so wealth, social mobility, this individual problem, chaos. So chaos is a bad thing. Here's the thing. Chaos in terms of instability of the system, we can kind of see that in terms of, like, If the people aren't getting the support that they need, that's bad and everything. Chaos is also how change happens. So there's an implicit assumption in having chaos be your singular moral metric, and that you, in order to have a more optimistic ending in the game's phrasing, you need to have low chaos. There's an implicit assumption that change is bad. Therefore, if there is an implicit assumption that change is bad, then there is an implicit assumption that the current state of things is good. And therefore, we go back to our kind of assumption that empire is fine. We just need the right ruler. We just need the right emperor. We just need all of these sorts of things. But chaos, change, and instability are all things that can be connected. So chaos is a thing that needs to be evaluated in context. So the context in which it is chosen to be used, and that what it comes to be a shorthand for, is significant. So as well, and this will be, let's see, so chaos is a bad thing. Even the positive NPCs. So we went into Dr. Hypatia's apartment when we were trying to get to Addermeyer Institute. The audio graph that plays has her talking about, it's not my place to talk about how the Duke works the miners to death, but I have to help them and tend to their health, or specifically how the phrasing goes. So even Dr. Hypatia, who is very much looked at as this generous, kind, giving figure, and generally as positively as you can have a character, is like, it's not my place to try and change things. It's my place to try and help these miners, which the context of it changes significantly when you think about the fact that the miners' illnesses and injuries are a result of them being overworked or them inhaling silver dust from the mines, and all of these things that are a result of their oppression. So when you think about it, it's actually pretty fucked up. Dr. Hypatia is saying, it's not my place to change the system. However, it is my place to treat the health of these workers such that they are able to continually endure the oppression that is foisted upon them. It's pretty messed up. I need to treat them so that they can live another day in the mines, because it's not my place to try and speak up and change things. It's pretty messed up. Let's see. So, interesting how conservative game stories usually are. We need to get things away. This was bad. Oh, this change thing is bad. Yeah, and that's kind of the tricky thing, is that approaching the negative space in a game, one, I'm going to be 100% honest, gamers by and large do not want to engage the stuff that they like in criticism. They get super upset, super doxing and trolling people and mobbing them upset if you have most any kind of criticism about a thing. Even if that, and God help you if in my scenario here, we're talking about things like oppression and rights and privilege. God help you if you try and get gamers to acknowledge privilege. Holy shit, no. So we even have to get to the starting line before we can even start having this discussion. And even once we start having this discussion, the majority of people who are working in narrative design, who have the power to make the final call, tend to be white. They tend to be white. They largely tend to be men. And so, of course, they're not going to notice these things because it's a hypothetical for them. Even the most leftist-leaning person has not experienced these things in earnest, which is why I'm always on my soapbox of, not only do you need to have diversity and inclusion, you also need to have equity, because these narratives don't change unless persons of color, of marginalized genders, who are queer, have the ability to tell these stories without them being edited down to their bloody nubs. Okay, so the last point, and then we're gonna get into Delilah's story, is that there's a lot of even the quote good characters who have done bad things. Basically, the difference between the characters who have power who oppress people and the characters with power who oppress people who we're supposed to be sympathetic towards is that the latter feel bad. That's essentially, and like maybe that they don't do what they did anymore. But the thing being that when you have that much power, even if you stop doing a thing, the effects of the ripples that creates don't go away. You have to actively try and reverse those things. So, as an example, we have I'll leave Delilah as the last example, since that'll be our transition into the cutscene. But Anton Sokolov, the person who we rescue from the Clockwork Mansion, is largely heralded with discovering the uses of whale oil as an energy supply, and bringing in the modern age with all of the like whale punk machinery and robotics and things like that we see in Dishonored. Now, like, you know, electricity, all of those things, great. The walls of light, like, you know, those electricity walls that auto kill you and turn you to dust that the cops use to keep you out of certain district, those are powered by whale oil. The clockwork soldiers that Kirin Jindosh is using to like sell to rich people to protect themselves and their holdings and terrify the poor, those are powered by whale oil. The tall boys from the first game that had like that were basically another kind of like oppressive regime cop type thing, powered by whale oil. And kind of like it's just kind of, yeah, it's the walls of light are not even necessarily considered inherently bad. Like, at least the tall boys and the clockwork soldiers are enemies that are trying to kill you. But there's infrastructure in the game, like the very idea of the walls of light, of being like stopping people's mobility, of being like, you're not able to come into this area of the city because of this thing. Because that was in Dunwall as well as it was in Serkonos. And the thing is Anton Sokolov will acknowledge, he's just like, I've done good things as well as the bad in my time, and just kind of that sort of thing. But there's this very kind of like, you hear it kind of underneath it of like, why you gotta bring up old shit? I'm old now. Okay, I do painting. Leave me alone. Like that sort of thing. Are all evil and mess? Being a genius doesn't think these are good. Human creations are evil. Yeah, but this is where I'm coming back to the use of power. Is this idea of like, I did a bad thing, but it treats that bad thing, if it's in the past, as existing in a void. Pun not intended, because void, Dishonored, that sort of thing. But this idea that it exists removed from time, and now that I don't do it anymore, stop bugging me about it. And I feel as though the through line, it's not just you have to stop doing bad stuff. It's more, when you do bad stuff, when you have a certain amount of power, and really even if you don't have a lot of power, but especially if you do, especially if you're someone who's like the royal alchemist or like the royal tutor, like an Anton Sokolov, if you have that kind of like head of state type power, and you do stuff that harms people, then healing that harm involves more than not doing bad stuff anymore. You know what I mean? There is reconciliation involved. There is healing involved. There is all of these kind of different things that, like, it's not enough to, like, stab someone to, and I guess I'll just straight up quote Malcolm X, is the idea of, like, if you stab someone, it is not enough to stop stabbing someone. It is not enough to remove the knife. It is not enough to just acknowledge the stabbing. To maybe start the healing, you have to acknowledge that, you have to remove the implement that caused the harm, you have to help bandage it, and you have to help the person deal with the time and the health that they lost as a result of your actions. And I think that video games and healing and forgiveness and things like that, video games, if you can think of a video game that really handled that process in an involved way, I would love to hear it. Because personally, I have not really seen most media handle that very well, because it's a process, and it's a process that takes work. The closest thing that I can think of is, if y'all have ever watched Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts, is Scarlemagne's story arc with respect to that. It's the, like, please forgive me, and they're like, I don't know if we can trust you enough, but you started doing this, and so we're gonna have to see how you continue to earn our trust back by doing that. And I think that needs to be acknowledged, and I think that needs to be something that is explored in depth if you are going to choose to have empire, power, wealth, privilege be a central fixture of your game. So that's basically what I was trying to get to that with your question, Abstract Observer, and everyone else who's watching as well. So let me, one, I'm going to go into studio mode again, and two, we are going to knock down the tunes as we transition over into the game, as I hide my notes. Is it that one? There we go, and boom, perfect. Okay. Yeah, thank you for the talk. Thank you for listening as well. It's something that, and I'll continue to go back to this old chestnut, is that criticism is an act of love. I love Dishonored 2. I truly do. I love narrative design. I love video games. But that doesn't mean that we can't, one, criticize it, and two, ask for the people who are making it to do better. And if video games and those who create them want to be considered legitimate forms of art, then legitimate forms of art get criticized. That's just kind of how it works. And you don't get to have one without the other. So let me get my cloth that I put my controller on so it doesn't clunk on my desk. And we can hop into Jessamine Caldwin's backstory. Let's see here. Campaign. Missions. So I believe it's the Royal Conservatory. So. And I will largely be quiet during this because I might point out kind of a couple callbacks to the points that we've been making. But I think it largely tells itself. So because it's been a little while since I've dropped the CWTW, let me just do that real quick. Because we are going to be experiencing instances where there's police violence, there is the death of a parent in childhood, the experiencing of homelessness and poverty, and the particularly reference to situation where there's most likely coerced consent involved. There is not explicit, like, either on screen, like any kind of sexual assault or anything like that, but there is one of those things where you can kind of, there's enough information to kind of draw the conclusion that this person probably didn't have a lot of power in this exchange. So, with that being said, just wanted to give y'all another heads up ahead of time before we jump into that. So, here we go.
The void, but somehow different this time.
Have a good night, Nine. Thank you very much for joining us.
The outsider marked me long ago. I made you flee your precious tower and turned your father into cold stone. How difficult for you. But when I was young, sweet Jessamine and I were closest sisters, sharing a secret. Emperor Kaldwin had another daughter, born in shame to a kitchen maid.
Am I dreaming? If not, how is Delilah doing this?
I told you when you're older, our sister.
You said that last year. Jessamine is younger than me, and she's a court every day.
Dishonored. Well, it's complicated. You'll understand someday.
What did I do? I'll be good. I swear.
Next year, I promise.
So we have a guy who had a relationship or a fling with a maid, had a daughter, and is now basically trying to have it both ways to where he wants to kind of acknowledge her existence but not otherwise, which is pretty fucked up. But also keep her a secret.
During the day, Jessamine and I played games in the tower. But at night, I'd go back to the servants' quarters to cockroaches and thin gruel. Emperor Daddy would visit and tell me if I was good. Next year, I'd be old enough to come to court to be a princess. Then one day, pretty Jessamine broke something worth a fortune, and the spy master caught us. She claimed I did it, and he whipped me in the garden house until I bled. My mother lost her kitchen job, and that night we were out on the streets with no place to sleep.
I didn't break it.
Would you like to tell me who did?
We were just playing.
Young Lady Jessie, what is your account?
It was her. Delilah's life. She broke it.
This is a very Steven Universe. Actually, your mom was terrible, Emily. I mean, she was also a kid, but, like, God. Also, Emperor Kaldwin, like, is just generally awful. Like, terrible, terrible person.
Nastiest parts of Dunwall, ending up in debtor's prison. Jessamine died quick on an assassin's blade, but my mother lingered for weeks after a fat guard broke her jaw. They threw me out when she died. I looked up at the lights of Dunwall Tower and swore revenge. Washing bedsheets in a brothel, I painted on the side, until Anton Sokolov took me as a student. That's the polite word for it. I was crafty even before the outsider marked me, and survived the worst the Empire could offer. Now it's your turn.
My mother's sick. She needs help.
Your mother kicked off while you were out begging. She's another bag of bones now, girl.
What? No.
Your sentence is served, and you'll be tossed out with the others. You can't stay here anymore.
So, of note, all of the instances in which we are treated to the guards, whether it's the Watch of Dunwall or the Grand Guard in Serkonos, it is all instances like that. It's all them, like, beating up the poor or, like, being generally callous or cruel, and yet we are expected to believe that these are individual bad cases, and that there is not a continual overarching rot within that. When Emily first like kills or knocks out one of the coup people, the people who the Duke basically disguises as Dunwall City Watch people, she says something along the lines of, "You're not worthy of the Watch uniform." I would propose that the Watch uniform is not a worthy thing in general. And yet, the game not only does not confront this reality, but again, in the metric of chaos and lethality, you are characterized as a cruel, sadistic, like bathes in blood, horrible serial killer for basically dealing with these individuals lethally. And I think that there is something with that needs to be confronted within the game development space. So, with that being said, we are going to take a 15-minute break. Well, here, actually, you know what? In chat, do any of you have any further questions before we transition off to the big crown killer stain vibes? Exactly. Does anyone have any other final questions or comments while we're kind of queuing up to go over to probably first the 15-minute break that I mentioned, and then when we come back, we're going to be doing our Ghost in the Wall run, essentially. Let's see. It's a very judgy take that feels like they're masking as all or nothing. It's very much like that. Like, there's kind of medium chaos, but again, as we were mentioning earlier that Queerly Departed was discussing, the idea of attaching morality to a quantitative metric in itself, in my opinion, kind of sets you up for failure. It just doesn't really grasp the totality of what it means, and in fact, like, meting out karma as a bankable resource to successfully have or not have in like a bank balance, I feel like is a fundamentally different kind of experience than making moral decisions, because you can absolutely make those decisions based off of pragmatism, but it's a different kind of dynamic, if that makes any sense. Let's see here. So I am going to... I have a save loaded up about halfway through the first portion of Clockwork Mansion. So what I'm going to do is we're going to pop over to BRB, and I'll give you that chill music. Actually, here, you know what? The main menu music of Dishonored 2 is pretty dope, in my opinion. So I will leave you with that, and we will hop on a break. Everyone, please take your time to stretch, take your meds, hydrate, do all that kind of good stuff. And we will be back in 15 minutes. So if you're on EST, be about 7:15. And then whatever that time is where you are. And so we'll just see you in a few minutes. Alrighty here. Okay, so we are back slightly early because I think what I'm gonna do, because of the fact that there's a bit of level between where you start and when you actually get to the Clockwork Mansion. I'm going to give that extra 3 minutes to just try and bull rush my way through the thing while also getting all of the dollary dues and things that I can get. That's for that. I've already got that.
I'm glad to see you well.
Yeah, okay, so I've already bought everything that I can get from you that I could really use. I mean, I could get some more bullets. Sure, why not?
Keep to the shadows. That's my advice.
Okay, cool. And... Alright, well, that didn't work. How about... Here we are. Does that... I don't think that opens. No, it does not. Okay. More blood flies. Not a problem, because I have a gun. Yeah. Nothing in here. Wow, I missed the nest. Out of here, all of you. Yeah. And luckily, more pistol bullets. And withered ryegrass. Sure. Yeah, and there's a bunch in this dead body. Yeah, I know. For real, there's like one left. Come on now. Silliness. Right, and the bone charm is down in the shop. Sorry, the rune is down in the shop, and I don't really want it. Nothing in here. Let's see. Reminded me of The Witcher because that Stoneheart DLC, where you go to the main guy mansion and learn all the horrible stuff he's been Yeah, that was. Oh, geez, you just reminded me of that. I hate you. Love you too, random citizen. Let's see, RE7 nests, which is not a comparison I thought I would ever be making because they look so unpleasant. Cue that famous One Punch Man mosquito clip. Yeah, exactly, just splatted against the wall. Let's see here. Tivian. Should be some raw whalebone. Yep. Alright. I think what'll happen is once I get into the stage car. Actually, here, you know what? Because I'm a nice, deadly supernatural assassin. What I'm going to do...
Said whale oil. Got it for you. Not easy to pinch either.
No, you screwed up. It won't work without another tank. Not enough blast. Trust me on this.
All right. I don't know shit about explosives. Never said I did. I'll go out again later and find some more.
Good. You can't rush jobs like
Don't fall into the... Shoot. Okay. Well, that could have ended much worse. Tell you what, I'm not gonna kill you. Because you're just, like, poor citizens. But how about what I do? Can I... Come on, get firmly grasp it. Thank you. Yeah, you just... Yeah, you go there. Da, 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 da. And how about... Oh, you fell right there. Okay, cool. Right. More... Can't afford to feed him no more. Nothing for beers or... Oh, yeah, right. Shitty parents. Right. Okay, so... You're treating children poorly, so I tell you what I'm gonna do with you. Oh wow, yeah, you're already dead via grenade. I remember you. Can I just like throw you on the third rail or something? I don't know. It's kind of weird sometimes how the game will like try and be like, don't worry about killing these civilians. They're actually shitty people, like a lot. And then also be like, oh, but now there's more blood flies. You see what you did? Like, I don't know about that. Grand Guard people, I don't know. You can be on fire. Oh, you missed the fire. Okay, well, how about... There you go. Good as new. They're gonna have a bad time when they wake up. Yeah, I figure I can at least separate the two. And I wish that I could, like, give the shop owner the heads up that, like, hey, these assholes are trying to, like, blow up the back of your shop, but unfortunately that's not a narrative option. The only narrative option is rob her or don't rob her, which is not super ideal. Now let's see, because I always screw this up. I'm probably gonna screw it up again. Haha! I didn't.
Something unsavory going on. I'm getting good and drunk after this.
Let's see. Because the thing about Far Reach is it doesn't work like Blink. Like, you actually have inertia. So if I overshoot it, especially if it's really far away, I will absolutely die. Okay. There's no... okay, there's stun mines in there. I might actually want to get that. Now, I'm wondering if the two guards in here already died, because they're supposed to come in on the tram that comes through. But they're not here. So, I mean... That works. There's the newspaper.
That tasted awful. That weren't no blue-jawed hagfish.
Are you both down here? Yeah? No? No, you're all both out there? Okay, cool. Because, yeah, I actually don't really need what's in the safe that bad, because there isn't another shop. Or I could just be full up on anything, and all of the stuff here is straight up a waste of time. Okay, cool. Never mind. Never mind. Because I think what we're also going to do is I need to craft a couple of bone charms, because there are a couple of different things that I want to have in my loadout when I hit the Clockwork Mansion.
You can see Jindosh's mansion from here.
Okay, why am I not crouching? It's bad form, old girl. Let's see. So that I don't have any that I haven't. Okay, cool. Let's go to craft, sacrifice. One thing I'm not a huge fan of in this game is the fact that, like, when you go back and replay the missions, you don't actually get to, like, keep the stuff that you had equipped. Let's see. So got that. 3 traits, sure. We'll do Swift Stalker. Swift Shadow. And I could do that. And then, but yeah, Restoration is down there, so I'll have to make another one for that. Because yeah, I would love to be able to just, I'll put another Restore Mana, yeah. I'd love to just be able to have my loadout all queued up. Like, I'm sure once I have beaten the game like 4 times and can just do that, it's fine. Restoration, mana regeneration, and mana regeneration. Perfect. Love to see it. 4 times, that's a lot of times. I've beaten it twice already, and of course it gets easier when you have all of the stuff that you can get from, you know, beating the game, because you get to do New Game Plus, right? Also, hello, Sinziak, and welcome on in. I hope that you are having a lovely Monday, my friend. How are you today? Let's see here. They're gonna have a bad time when they wake up. Yep. Well, okay, one of them's gonna have a bad time. The other one is, on fire. Okay. So, there are a couple of different ways that I can go about this. I can get the alleyway key, or I can just jump past there. The only thing being that there are a couple of bone charms that I do want, especially if I want to get Invisible Thread, which is potentially that corrupt one that's in there. And then also some of the other ones that I have in here. Let's see. So, Far Reach. Bada bing. Blink. Yeah, don't worry about it. Go to sleep. No tears now, just dreams. I'll take that, thank you. I think I'm like full up on ammo on everything. Everything except for sleep darts. And like grenades. So there might not even be... I say there's not even a real point to me like grabbing stuff as I like grab everything, because I am absolutely that person.
Give me a handful of the club. It's not clean up the dust district.
Gentlemen, I'm just gonna leave this with you. Have a lovely day. One me.
Does he think I'm stupid? I know all my letters and then some.
And then spiritual sacrifice is killing blood flies or rats restores mana. Okay, cool. Do. Mr. Burns like face you just pulled. Thank you. I occasionally enjoy my Looney Tunes type kills. I don't have a rewiring kit for the Wall of Light. Oh well. I love how, like, the door is blown the fuck up, but because they were unaware, it didn't create a body. So it's just kind of like, shoddy craftsmanship. They just don't make them like they used to. Door just exploded. Ba, 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 ba. No. Okay. Full Grinch listening in on the Who's Misery. I mean, if there was ever a description that was accurate. Let's see. I mean, I don't really need it, but I was gonna take all your stuff. And how about oh, who made that noise? Oh crap, better check it out. Shame. Oh god, such a mess. Anyways. Special delivery or inflammatory Twitter. That is this. I mean, yes, basically. She's like, let me. I see you have a thread there. Just throw the Molotov. Yes, that is super on brand. Okay, cool. Okay, so how do I want to handle this? I'm probably going to use Domino is the answer to that question, at least partially. Because I do. That's not... are you out of range? That sucks. Okay. Don't worry about it. You know what? We're just gonna put a happy little cop right there. Let's see. Okay, so this one's... I think I can reach it. There we go. Because there's a couple of rewire tools that I do want to get that are on the bottom floor. Because this guy has a workshop, whoever used to live here. Let me just grab that real quick. Is it, okay, there's a rune there. Rewire tool. Is there another one? I thought there was a spring razor in here. Oh well, apparently not. Let me just hop right back upstairs jauntily real quick. Death rate. I'm almost Dark powers, you say. Better left alone, you say. 2 shreds, you say. Let's see here.
What was that? Wait.
I mean, y'all aren't gonna find shit unless you're looking for your own demise. Lightweight. That's a boring one. Let's see here. I don't want to use up all of my resources killing these guards here, so I'm probably going to hold on to them until we actually get into the mansion. And here's the part where I save in case I overshoot the cliff and plunge to my doom, which has happened before. Come on, show me where it goes. There we go. No, not under it, on top of it. Thank you. Ba, ba, ba,
The mansion
ba.
has a strange beauty to it. But also
All right,
places
let's rock. Firmly grasp it. With far reach, we firmly grasp it. Okay. So, for those of you who might remember, there's normally a way that I'm supposed to do this. Namely, this is our main room. Let me just eat all of your stuff. Is there an Addermeyer solution? There is. And I would like to have that, thank you. Nothing in there. So, normally, I'm supposed to hit this, and the room changes configuration. What we're going to do instead is go up here. So, as long as as long as I don't move any of the levers in the house, and as long as none of the guards like set off one of the alarms, Jindosh will not know that I am here. Let me just thank you. And as far as I know, there isn't really a way
behind the walls.
to break that glass without the robots getting alerted, but honestly, that's fine. So there's also a couple of Grand Guard here, and let's see here. What if because I have one rewire tool, and there's a couple more in the other room. What? That could be fun. Yeah, let's do that. We're gonna do this. Bye. Do. And now our robot friend plays Mary Hobb with their insides.
What was that? What's going on here? What?
It's always nice when you have a helping hand.
Somebody's down.
Playback for execution of foe. Playback for combat. Okay, shut it down. Combat protocol 6.
I think at these prices,
the man wouldn't keep us waiting.
There's only one.
Yeah, like they... It's just like, get him! Get him! I'm not killing any of them. They just happen to be in front of the knife when it stabbed them.
Lower wages means higher profit.
Yeah, that's real cool.
My time that's precious. I'm not used to waiting.
That's okay. I'm gonna take care of you real quick. Oh, that was the blinding bolt. Oh, well. That's not what I meant to do. Oh, well. Well, you were worried about waiting too long for a clockwork, so I tell you what I'm going to do for you. We're going to take you right to him. We are bringing the value to you.
Jindosh.
My home is always open. It's one of my great curiosities, seeing how the common...
So if one of them gets destroyed, interesting. All right, cool. Well, I'm wondering what killed it, because that was not supposed to be part of the plan. Oh well. Thank you very much, Owl tokens. I appreciate Overwatch League tokens. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing that correctly. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Yeah.
So close just a while ago, but now I wonder if you know where you're going. At this rate, you may never...
Don't worry, I'll be over soon. Okay, so we got the two guards. That's all good.
It is, we'll make it this far into the mansion.
Hello? Are you there?
I'm sure it's not.
I can't sense your weight on the floor, nor the sounds of your breathing anymore, but it seems like a reasonable guess that's... You've gotten beyond the inner walls of the house.
Get my dark vision back. You're still looking over here? I mean, okay. If that's what you want to do. If you want to see the bolt coming.
Something unsavory going on.
Nah, couldn't be.
And drunk after this.
And you have a helmet on, so I can't shoot you in the head. Damn it. Alright.
I sense your movements. I know where you are.
Cool. Then watch this.
Taking, according to the scales beneath the floor and my acoustic... You move quite quickly.
Imagine being one of the guards in this scenario with just kind of like, oh, you're moving all over the place, and they're not seeing anything, and they're like, what the fuck?
It's gotta die, yeah, but please, not today.
Yeah, I don't take requests.
My clockworks weren't enough for you. You also slaughter my guards. Well, at least they're easier to replace. It seems you found my bedroom, though I confess sleep usually eludes me. My mind won't stop turning.
We have this and that, and I think that's all I really need from this room.
What cruelty is this? There's another choice here. Assuming Jindosh's electroshock machine works. Not sure I'd call it mercy.
Oh, collided with the... There we go. That's a little bit better. Can I get up there? Yes, I can. Excellent. So, Jindosh is right over there. Come on, dark vision. So what we're gonna do... Where are you? There it is. And this is where the magic happens. What was that? What was that? I didn't quite catch that. But yeah, can I ask you a question? Of course, it's not a question. That's because I don't do requests. Oh, I appreciate it. I wish I had the quick wit capability that you have, Sophia. That would have been perfect. So yeah, I've already got all of the runes, bone charms, and I've already rescued Sokolov in this particular thing. So I am going to... That's pretty much how you do it. Other than, like, generally... I'm literally just gonna, like, throw you off a cliff because I can. Yeah, probably an unlocked door. That's probably it. You nailed it. Hey, bud, look what I found. Don't worry about it. So yeah, that's basically... Other than... Apparently, I didn't know that that was another trigger. That the clockwork soldiers getting destroyed was another trigger. So that was probably the singular flaw in that, but that's essentially how you do it. If you can path your way through, kill a couple of guards, I just got, you know, overly ambitious with my desire to have the clockwork soldier just go on a rampage. But that's essentially the pathing of how you do it. As long as you don't hit any of the levers, don't get spotted by guards to where they can hit an alarm, or apparently don't kill any of the clockwork soldiers, you can absolutely go all the way through and kill Kirin Jindosh before he even knows you're there. So let me let's go to main menu and we'll load up the Royal Conservatory, because essentially all that's essentially left in that mission is grabbing Sokolov and then getting back out, which is reasonably simple, and nothing super exciting other than grabbing paintings, grabbing loot, and things like that. So let's go Royal Conservatory. So this is the first time that you face witches, which are Brianna Ash's students, essentially. I need to go through a playthrough and try that now. I love that there is so much extra stuff that you can do once you finish a full playthrough. It just gets more complex through there. So this is the bit where we get Delilah's backstory, but since we already did that in our other talk, I'm going to basically try and skip through it as fast as possible, because I have indeed already seen all of this.
If not, how is Delilah doing this?
But I can't skip the sad backstory. God damn it. Basically, one of the emperors had Delilah out of wedlock with an affair with a maid, which, you know, when you're an incredibly powerful politician, those sorts of relationships aren't coercive at all. So, you know, pretty shitty. But should you desire more discussion on that, that is something that you can refer back to our talk that we had at the first portion of the stream about.
It was her. Delilah's life. She broke it.
Mother and I saw the net.
My mother's sick. She needs help.
Mother kicked off while you were out begging.
As horrible as the events depicted in these paintings are, I do gotta say, the paintings themselves are freaking gorgeous. Oh, thank you very much. I should... there are so many people who, like, followed before we started streaming. But thank you very much, Brutal Dan. Hey, Danny, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate you. And also appreciating the boost from earlier today, as well as Queerly Departed, Radio Green Tea, Dead Wing Tree, let's see, Abstract Observer, and a couple of other folks who decided to be kind enough to follow before we even got started today.
Who made whale oil into a weapon, who turned back the plague, and now he's barely able to speak. The hands that painted the most powerful men and women of our time.
Also, Kieran Jindosh was literally trying to torture Sokolov with electroshock in order to, like, kill the parts of his brain associated with free will and turn him into his servant, but that could also invent stuff for him, I guess. You know, for someone who made whale oil powered robots, Kieran Jindosh doesn't super grasp how neurology works. But then we are also talking about, like, whale punk Victorian London.
Mother? That wasn't a dream, was it?
Am I to blame for Delilah's bitterness?
All this is her doing.
I mean, yes, you and your dad. You were a kid at the time, but still shitty. Something I should say to your face, but that's hard for me. Thank you for what you did bringing Anton back. What would I have done without him puttering around the ship, mumbling and stroking his greasy beard? I wanted to find him on my own, and hearing what you went through, I'm impressed. Anyway, enjoy this bottle from the Captain's Reserve. Good stuff. I got from an aristocrat wanting quick passage out of Karnaca a while back. You'll need it now that Anton is back if you want to sleep. His snoring cuts straight through the bulkhead. Nice. Nothing else to grab in here. How are my bone charms looking? Halfway decent. And then I have my recovery, maximum health, doppelgangers. Excellent. Cool.
Anton, you've had 3 days to rest. Tell me how to kill Delilah.
They tortured him. His body is covered with bruises.
Delilah has the throne, and my father is missing. This is Anton Sokolov, the greatest mind in the Empire.
Damn, Emily!
Megan is right.
He's just going up to this old man who's been tortured. Like, get up! Get the fuck up!
But Delilah is beyond my understanding. When I came to Sarkonos, I meant to leave everything behind. But when the assassination started, I couldn't ignore it. By the time Megan and I connected the murders to the Duke, it was too late. The Crown Killer came for me. It kept me alive from my knowledge, but I saw things. Jindosh often had a visitor, Brianna Ashworth.
She's the curator of the Royal Conservatory.
Yes, Ashworth is dangerous, as obsessed with the occult as Delilah. Apparently, she's working on a device called the Oraculum.
There's more to her than either of you know.
If Ashworth is one of Delilah's lieutenants, I need to eliminate her.
Who knows what this device is capable of, or what she's up to.
And thus, the Royal Conservatory. And now we get a bit more dialogue now that Sokolov is back.
Remembering my mother's face sometimes, but there might be some resemblance.
Painted from memory. While trying to learn more about what the Duke of Sarkonos was up to, I began hearing a name I hadn't heard in almost 2 decades. Delilah Copperspoon. We painted together for a time, but her obsession with the occult and the Caldwin family took her out of my circles.
I saw some of her paintings. Beautiful, but somehow sinister.
You knew Delilah? All this time traveling with you and you never mentioned
My
that?
past is none of your business. You don't own everything, Empress.
Another life, another life. Megan came to Karnaca to reinvent herself. Maybe I did as well, but the Duke of Sarkonos had other ideas.
Anything worth anything I can pick up? Nope. Nope. Painting. I mean, technically, I guess that would probably be worth a whole lot of money now. Because she's like the Empress of Dunwall, currently at least.
We'll take the skiff. I don't want to bring the dreadful whale any closer than we have to. There is a small dock in Syria Gardens, close to the conservatory. That's as far as I can take you. Ready to go?
Yes.
Let's rock.
go.
I might have to craft my stealth runes again. Because I need to just kind of have those in my loadout. It makes everything a lot quicker. Quicker, more stealthy, quieter. Because I think I still have rewiring kits that I can probably use on the Wall of Light.
There'll be a Grand Guard presence outside the Royal Conservatory. Inside, be prepared for anything. Ashworth runs with an eclectic crowd. They'll be the real danger.
Someday I'd like to know more about how you met Ashworth.
I know you would. Trust me. Ashworth is important to Delilah, which brings up something else. You might be able to exploit the Abbey of the Everyman in removing Ashworth from play. Turns out the Vice Overseer in Karnaca has been watching Ashworth from a hidden outpost.
Yeah, Megan's pretty cool, and I haven't played Death of the Outsider yet, but I'm looking forward to doing that as well.
Ashworth is a grave threat.
Thanks, Megan. See you soon.
Okie dokie. What do we got? Let's do some crafting. If I have the whalebone for it, so I absolutely could. Let's go. Slide speed with weapon shield, slightly faster in stealth mode. I'm gonna do that, and then I'll just have more. Defense, exacting aim. Then, yeah, we'll do that. And I could make a restoration one, but that, I don't really need it. Crafted bone charm, and then void armor just drains my mana when I take damage, which I do not want. I am good on that.
Export to protect the trees. I don't get it. When I went to Dunlop, I brought back a river crush shell to use as a map. Because it reminds me of
Yoink,
time.
yoink,
But what's
yoink.
the point of buying wood from a country you never visited?
Lady Shersha has money, so she gets the wood she wants.
Today's your lucky day, madam. It's the day you get to meet Pirate Betty in person. Time to be the... live.
Never heard of her. Oh, wait, wasn't she a waitress down on the docks?
You must have heard the stories about Pirate Betty. About all the terrible things I've done to the fools who refuse to give up some trinkets or a bag of coins.
No, I've never heard one word about your exploits, but go on. What did you do to your marks? Give them a good tap on the
For
nose?
shit's sake, why do you have to ruin everything? I played my part when I was the victim. How are we supposed to attract any suckers if you won't play along?
You're the worst suck I've ever seen. Pirate Betty, my ass.
Anyways, amateurs.
Welcome to my shop. Say, an acquaintance of mine is supposed to be holed up in an office overlooking the Royal Conservatory. Check on them if you're headed that way. I'd check myself, but the streets are locked down. I'd make it worth your time.
I'll think about it.
See anything you like?
What kind of upgrades do I have that I could get? I've got a halfway decent amount of money. I've already got that. Already got that. That's maxed out. Probably nade. Yeah.
Excellent choice.
And I might get... It's not that one. Probably get the incendiary.
I'm certain you will be satisfied with your purchase.
Got bolts. Got that.
No need to wrap it for you, I suppose.
It's funny, I never used grenades in my other playthrough, but you know, I have such oh geez, okay, cool. So apparently I need to... I forgot that was a thing. Oh well, I'm gonna have to loot some people.
Farewell, and do think of us again.
Ba, ba, ba. Alright, so where's Bone Charms? Is there one? There's just the rune down there, and there's a bunch pretty far away in the level. Okay, so everything looks like it's gonna be looting for valuables in this building. Which, that tracks, honestly. Alright, how many we got? Got 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Why can't I wear my regular clothes?
Mill operation. Okay, not especially interesting. What else we got here? grenades start to feel a lot more useful. Yeah, or at least very funny. Like, there's the... I've mentioned Stealth Gamer BR a couple more times in this playthrough, but I love impact grenades because if you stop time, you can shoot the grenade with your pistol, and it will propel the grenade from the bullets hitting it, but it won't explode until it hits an enemy. And that's very, very fun. See, if I hit the audio graph, does he wake up? As I'm wondering. Let's see. Metronome, oracular order. I'm gonna take that real quick. You know what? I'm not gonna be talking to you. So, there you go. Done and done. Note to the Overseer. Overseer Ogburn, I should be back within a few days. Continue to compile information on Brianna Ashworth's activities, despite the odd letter we received from our oracular sisters in Calero. Despite the odd letter. It's not like them to issue a proclamation without certainty, but I know I'm right about Ashworth. My gut tells me she's a threat. That said, the Howlers are my priority. The conflict with Paolo could affect our influence in Karnaca for years to come. Yours in the strictures, Vice Overseer Liam Byrne. Theological institutions controlling politics. You hate to see it. Let's see, and audiograph.
Brianna Ashworth, curator of the Royal Conservatory. For a while, I believed Ashworth has some connection to the occult in Karnaca. Something is happening that I don't understand. The overseers are the forward face of the Abbey, but equally important are our sisters from the Oracular Order. To be direct, I suspect something is wrong within their sect. Subtle changes to the types of proclamations they've been making. Small but troubling deviations from tradition. But publicly saying anything along those lines will get me accused of heresy by my rivals within the Abbey. Is it possible that Ashworth has infiltrated the Oracular Order?
So Vice Overseer Byrne thinks Ashworth is interfering with the Oracular Order. If true, it's another reason she has to be eliminated.
Well, there we go. The witches are interfering with the diviners, I guess. Oh, hello. Toys. Here, folks, I'm gonna take a quick, another probably not even 5 minutes, bio break real quick, and I will BRB in just a moment there. And Alrighty. Let's just do. Sorry about that, but we're all back and good to go. Okay, cool. Continuing. I've already gotten everything. I'm all maxed out on pistol ammo. And right, I'm maxed out on grenades too. Cool. Anything down here? Anything of value? Nope. Okay, cool. And I believe there was a side apartment. There is. But I don't think there's actually anything of value in there. Come on, thank you. Nope, 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 nope. Oh, what is this? Conservatory closure extended. A representative from the Royal Conservatory confirmed today that the site's closure has been extended once again, with no promise of when it might reopen. Curator Brianna Ashworth could not be reached for comment. Readers will remember that an infestation of mites in the Roseboro exhibit forced the closure nearly 6 months ago, though there have been rumors that no exterminators have been hired. The Roseboro exhibit was to be a prestigious event sponsored by the Academy of Natural Philosophy, with hopes of attracting numerous experts and guest lecturers from across the aisles. This important exhibition is now on hold indefinitely due to the extended closure. For hopeful visitors, there is nothing to do but to wait for further word. Seems legit. Okay, so here's the rooftop again. So, I believe I do still have a rewiring kit. So what I'm gonna do... because you'll notice there's a wall of light down there. Come on, can I please? There we go.
No, the technical officer came by and said it was fine. He looked at the wall of light, then climbed up to check the windmill. All good. Why?
Yesterday, the wind kicked up so hard I thought the windmill was gonna fall apart. The wall of light was flickering and sparking like crazy.
I've seen that too. The was expensive now, and the tanks run dry. The wind's unpredictable, but it's still better than a bunch of out running through the checkpoint in night vision.
Yeah, I see your point.
What? Everybody's gonna die. Yeah, but please not today.
Oh, God. Well, that's what Ben Time is very good for. Anyways, so the wild thing about walls of light powered by these windmills, they're very prone to being overpowered. So for instance, if a strong gust of wind were to hit it, there's no telling what could happen. Terrible shame.
Even the air is different. Something's coming. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, this person just... So, this is something struck by lightning, an overcharged windmill, you say? They just, yep, can't beat those old Sokolov models. Those new Kirin Jindosh walls of light just, woof. Can't trust them. Can't trust them. It's a Circonan plantain. But yeah, so that'll be real interesting if they decide to pursue me. Also, this person's just kind of chilling. So the thing that I found remarkable is really nice little apartment here. No bedroom. Like, there's a bathroom. Bathroom right in here. Like, real nice, well-appointed bathroom. Hardwood floors. Little kitchen nook here. No bedroom. Still sleeping on the couch. I feel like this person, like, kind of misplaced their priorities. It's just like, okay, we got the hardwood floor. We got the kitchen nook. We got the bathroom. Okay, but what about the bedroom? Bedroom? You didn't ask for a bedroom. Okay, well, I guess I do have a couch. Like, did I go, hey, chat? Hey there, C2 Silva official. Welcome on in. Do you want me to call you by that whole name? Is C2 okay? Let me know. I hope that you are having a lovely, lovely evening. Still waiting on their futon to come in. Exactly. It's one of those, they moved at the worst possible time during the bloodfly infection, but they're like, the real estate market is just, there's never been a better time to buy. So yeah. C2? Okay, good to know. Okay, so the wall of light is gonna take care of them. So I'm just gonna leave that and try to make my way around. I could have literally just come out of the balcony here. What am I even doing with my life? Okay. So. Wow. Borked that. Let's try it again. Let's try it one more again. That was rough. How about this time? Cool? Cool. Alright. Let's see. Overpower thing in the wall of light. Cool trick. Yeah, it's fun. It's, I never used it last time. It's one of those ones that you kind of have to set it up because you have to overpower it. You have to rewire it so that it hits enemies and not you. So it's one of those, like, if you want to play the mousetrap game, like, you know, like the old Milton Brothers mousetrap game where you set up the Rube Goldberg machine, you can absolutely do it. But it's basically, it's a little bit less practical if, say, you're on your first playthrough. But, like, once you have, like, all of the powers and a bunch of perks to get yourself, like, more mana and everything, why not do it, right? Let's see here. So, oh, geez, I feel like I need a better doppelganger, which I can, there's some runes over there. But first and foremost, I feel like one of my favorite dynamics in this game is when you come across some enemies who were planning on ambushing you. Like, if I look down here with my special eyes... Oh, geez. Well, that's a real good hiding spot you got right there. Oh, and you too. For real. I pity the person who's going to come by here. I bet they're just not even going to know what hit them. Let's see here. So, how about... Let's turn off my special eyes first. So, what's your cone of vision like? Because what I would like to do... How about... Okay, I have an idea. So, I'm going to, first and foremost, we're gonna... Nope, that's not what I want. That's what I want. And we are also going to... You got her! Good job! Let's see. So that's kind of fun. I was kind of hoping that the doppelganger would just kind of stand there. But, I mean, that works too. That definitely works too. Okay. And they also, like, there's another dumpster with, like, another body in it somewhere, so they straight up murdered the crap out of the people who owned these shops in the alley anyway, so I don't feel super bad. Oh, wow. And those spring razors took them the fuck out. Yeah, there's another way I could have snuck around. Cool, cool, cool. Like, yeah. Like, this was, like, the proprietor of the place down here. Those two witches just straight up stabbed the crap out of him. Interesting. Don't know what that is. Okay. So we got... where's the runes? There we go. Okay, cool. I think... if this is the rooftop that I think this is... Is that the rooftop I think it is? Yeah, it's the far one. Okay, cool. So, I guess, you know what? Better safe than sorry. Coming up is I'm going to give a brief CW for police violence. So, the thing that would normally happen... Actually, here. We're going to bring it right up to what would normally happen. And you're going to get to see... what could have happened if you didn't have such a brave hero as Emily Caldwin to come in and save the day at the last minute.
Like being a servant? Polishing and dusting.
The place smells of lavender and antique furniture. Not like the dust district where the soot makes your teeth gray.
Is that any way to talk about the place where we got our start, Beatrix? You're too good for street dust now. We'll see about that.
Let's see here. So that would normally be wind blast would kill you. So let me yeah, so pretty much cop pushes her off the thing. I thought that I was going to be able to just pick her up or knock her unconscious, but apparently not. Is there an autosave? Because I definitely like stopping that if I can help it. Let's see. Is that... yeah, we'll do that. Because what I usually like to do is... yeah, woof, exactly. Like, basically... what is it? What's the term? Like, extorts her into using or like stealing something from the household. And then when she doesn't want to steal for her anymore, like, pushes her off the roof and kills her. Like, if there was ever a better expression of ACAB, I don't know what it is. So, instead, I tell you what we're gonna do. We're just... really? Is this... it's already scripted? Okay, well, I mean... you wanted to go off the roof so bad, so I tell you what we're gonna do. Let's see. There's that wall of light down there. Kobe! Anyways, you go, like, sleep it off for a little bit or something. Actually, here, in case someone comes up here, we're just gonna put you right there. It's always the glass. It's always the glass. Sleep darts. Yeah, exactly. So what I was hoping to do is, like, grab her, like, choke her unconscious before stop time ends, and then basically use my wind blast to knock the cop off of the edge. But unfortunately, it looks like as soon as she starts to interact physically with the scullery maid who's there, it is scripted and you can't interact with them anymore. So that kind of sucks a little bit, but you know what? One is dead and one is not, and the one who is alive is not the Grand Guard. So you know what? We'll take the victory where we find it. Alright, and we got another outsider shrine in here with a crap ton of booby traps. So there's one. I don't think my special eyes are special enough to see all of the booby traps, but we're definitely going to try. How about we do... Bingo. And that's what spare bottles and stuff are for. Okay, so nothing else over here. Ooh, Howling Bolt. Okay. There's another one. There's another one. I don't think there's anything in there. Oh. There's another one. There's another one. Alright, cool. Just stocking up. Okay, and there was that one back there. Okay, excellent. And I think this shrine is Brianna Ashworth's backstory. If I remember correctly. Which would make sense, because this is her level, so. Yep, alright. Backstory time.
Look at you, leaving a trail of bloody boot prints across this dying city.
Shut up, Gerard Way.
Brianna Ashworth would have been miserable as a member of high society. Forced to wed some bloated banker. Her only moments of real freedom, getting drunk at fancy balls, and slipping away to couple with strangers.
Listen, dude, don't fucking, like, sex shame. Don't slut shame.
Into an icy river. But just before mother and father married her off,
now, the arranged marriage is not cool.
She found Delilah instead. It was all highways and graveyards after that. Never looking back. Vice Overseer Byrne is an ambitious man, but he believes in the Abbey's mission, protecting the good people of the Empire against the likes of us. You know he'd be happier deep down if this ended with Brianna Ashworth's head on a spike. Maybe yours as well.
So yeah, dealing with Paolo and Vice Overseer Byrne will be what we're doing in the next mission, I believe. Let's see here. So we're gonna do transposition, because I don't quite want the Shade to be trying to attack people yet. I think it's more fun to use it as bait and then set traps. Let's see. I don't think there's anything else that I can grab here. Cool. I think we're good. There's just the hole going back down. All right, cool. Oh, wait, no. I am too large. I am too large to fit through that hole. Ooh, stinging bolt. All right. All right. So we got Couple down there. God, I am burning through the mana today. Let's see. Because I don't have the safe combination for the one dude's office, which is in here.
Whatever is happening, I'm ready.
I really don't think you are. Like, for real, I don't think you are. Here. Why don't we... I need it to be far enough away from you so that you use your gun. How about here?
What? Here.
Let's see here. Because I have possession.
So let's see.
That was interesting. All right. The trying to, like, walk them in front of bullets is always way more tricky on the timing than I think it's going to be. That's just going to keep going, isn't it? All right. Well... and now we come to a poker game gone terribly wrong. Or, I mean, right for us, really. But unnerving target. Okay, cool. Max out on ammo, body. I'm wondering what whoever that was is responding to. You know, something I was thinking about the other day is how wild it is that, like, Kieran Jindosh made clockwork soldiers. So, made robots that can do humanoid tasks. Imagine what he could have done in terms of just making clockwork miners. Like, could have used the exact same technology, just used it for labor instead of for having the rich, like, protect their shit. And doing that instead. It, kind of another one of those things in the narrative of the game in terms of just kind of like, you could have, with probably a fraction of the resources, made life so much better for everyone, but you didn't. And now look at you. You're dead. So that's a thing. Those coins are way too big to be practical. They are pretty enormous. That was a mess. Yeah, it was. That was absolutely a mess. Yep, I am no stealth gamer. I am just starting to get ambitious enough to try kind of creative kills, but it's definitely one of those things where the timing is needed. And that just comes from practice. Okay, so CW mutilation? Question mark? As a that is referenced in this letter, which is basically a mafia threat letter. So, Winnow, you want to know what happened to the owner before you when he says no more payouts and that's that? We says, all right, you got us, and we leave him alone. Then we paid one of his friends to take him fishing a week later. They were out on the water all day. Real good day. Caught a lot of fish. Coming back, his friend gave him a little letter from us and ran off. In it, I spelled out how the bait they was using all day was bits of his mother. Howlers don't play, you piece of shit. You got 3 days. Blue Jaw Jake. So, they just fucking Scott Tenorman this guy. Like, fucking Scott Tenorman from South Park, like, made chili out of, Cartman made chili out of his parents. It's just like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. Interesting. That is intense. That is certainly intense. Let's see, we got a rune or bone charm. It's not that far. Or, oh, okay, that's over in the infested lecture hall, it looks like. Which means we also have a not Weeper, the like hive protector things. Which are right over there. And yep. Yeah, and there's a bunch of them. Which means we're gonna circle around here. Ooh, atomized solution. So I think I'll take care of this building and then we'll call it an evening. Let's see. So we have the corrupt bone charm that's down there. Can I not get over there? Sarcona songs. Dried bow lizard. Interesting. Let's see. Alright, where are you, you fucker? There you are, I see you. So, one. Gonna burn the shit out of that. Yeah! Okay, where's the other nest? Oh, it's on the other side of the wall. Okay. Let me just, yep. And let me just, yep. And let me just, yep. And yep. And yep. Let's see. Money, 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 money. Pilfered safe combination. I'm certain one of my students at my lecture saw me writing my combination for my safe. Silver spoon dilettante who wants to make a career as a newspaper journalist. Sneaky fuck. He's chosen a fitting career, and his snobby cousin operates the black market shop nearby, so it must run in their well-heeled family. Now I need to ask Marguerite to change the combination to my safe. Well, I would need to run back and grab that, but that is all the time that we have for today. Well, let me get this painting. Let me just grab this painting real quick. Yep. That's all the time that we have for today. Let me pop over to IRL to give y'all a proper seeing off for the evening. Yeah. So, yeah. Thanks for everyone who came by for the little talk that I did earlier. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you came away from the stream and the talk and all that kind of good stuff with maybe some extra stuff to think about in terms of playing games, experiencing games, or even designing games if you're someone who does that as well. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that if this was your first stream to come by, we'll see you again some other time soon. We're doing this every Monday and Friday, 5:30 to 8:30. Sometimes we go a little bit later so that we can help support our friends by rating and things like that. But yeah, 5:30 to 8:30 Mondays and Fridays is the usual time that we do this. And then occasionally, you know, spoons permitting, a couple extra streams if we can fit them in. So if you love that, then please come by. Please tell your friends. If you can afford to drop a subscription, that is super, super appreciated, as always. And if not, you can always follow me at the Twitter handle indicated on the top corner there. And even check out the VODs from this and other playthroughs like Control over on my YouTube channel, which is also linked there. So we will, until we hop on there. Nice eyeliner. Those, surprise, surprise, C2. That's not eyeliner. That's just my eyelashes. I just look like this. So yeah, no, I got those Gojo Satoru from Jujutsu Kaisen eyes. These just what I look like. But yeah. I think for right now, we are going to go over and we are going to go hang out with our good friend Sinziak, who is always doing fun stuff. We'll see if it's Monster Prom, Monster Camp, maybe some Armello, or maybe he's on the JRPG kick because he was talking about doing that. In any case, I hope that y'all have a lovely evening and we'll see you again soon. And take care of yourselves when we'll see you on Friday. Have a good evening.